Oh, hi there everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Apologies that every single one of my videos has had a different background. We're busy visiting family along the West Coast and also just touring some cities we haven't been to, so there you have it. In this video, I will attempt to tackle the idea of credit. This is a very interesting subject because the more I talk to people, the more it seems like it's now a debate between the younger generation, my generation particularly, millennials, Gen Zers, and Gen X's and boomers. While my generation really believes that credit can be leveraged these days, the older generations, some go as extreme as to not use credit at all. So how did we get here? Well, I decided to do some research, and as I was browsing through the internet for answers, I came across these really interesting statistics. I came across this really interesting website called debt.org, which basically takes data from sources like the US Bureau of Labor Statistics and Experian and TransUnion and then summarizes it. So if we look at over here, credit card debt is spread across all generations, with younger Americans having the smallest share in total. That's really interesting. If you look at the statistics over here, 18 to 29-year-old age group range, which is like tail end millennials and Gen Zers, this is my group of people, we have in total $80 billion of credit card debt, but then it jumps up to about $2 trillion for people ages 30 to around 60, which is completely absurd. Looking at then Experian's research, they had conducted their own research with a large group of people. The average number of credit cards by generation, again, Gen Zers and millennials have a smaller number of credit cards they own in comparison to Gen Xers and baby boomers, which is really interesting. I wonder if there is a correlation between how many credit cards you own and how much you're tempted to spend. I do note that, as Experian has stated over here, during the pandemic, we did see a rise in credit card usage among the younger generation, probably just to get by. So the amount of credit card usage did increase for Gen Zers and millennials from 2021 to 2022. But that's still nearly not as close as what I see for boomers and Gen Xers, which is so interesting. What this data is saying to me is that my generation is more careful about our understanding of our financial ability before we borrow money than previous generations. I think this data is the reason why we're more comfortable to leaning towards building credit and using credit than other generations. So what exactly is credit? Credit is the ability to access goods or services or borrow money with the intention or understanding that you will pay later. Now, I think a lot of people I've spoken to, particularly in generations above mine, when we talk about this idea of credit, two things come up. One is Dave Ramsey, and two is the second part of the statement is often negated. If you had to borrow money, you have to have enough financial understanding in order to know where you sit so that you can leverage your debt well with the understanding that you can afford to pay back later. Now, I know a lot of you sitting in front of the screen, especially if you're not in my generation, Gen Z or millennials, you're probably thinking about Dave Ramsey. After hearing Dave's story, I can totally understand why he shifted from the perspective of using debt to not at all, because he had some hard times and he really struggled with overspending and overtaking out debt. However, I do think that with the present situation and the increased financial knowledge in this young generation, the ideas of debt is going to change. It is no surprise that if you look all over social media and different platforms, young people are the ones who are dominating the finance niche. With increased globalization and our eager desire to learn about money more than ever, I think we can be trusted to be a little bit more careful when it comes to leveraging debt and looking at the risks that we're going to take out, as well as understanding and analyzing our personal finances always along the way. There are a couple of reasons on why credit can be really useful these days, and here are the reasons why. One is cash back if you're going to be using the product anyway and spend money anyway. For example, we have a Costco credit card. We use Costco frequently, every single week for groceries. If we're going to use Costco for groceries, we might as well get the Costco card for the 2% cash back, as well as 2% for gas usage, because Costco gas is actually really one of the cheapest in the nation right now. So we might as well get that reward anyway. I also really like to use Amazon for purchasing East Asian skincare products that are very cost effective and really good to use. And I actually have the Discover credit card that has 5% cash back for shopping on Amazon, so I might as well get that anyway. Business expenses. I recently browsed off to do my own thing, figuring out how to start an engineering company as well as running this YouTube channel. I don't know if any of them are gonna work out, but I've had to spend a couple of business dollars for that. If I'm going to spend money for business expenses, I might as well build credit on the side. Having absolutely no credit these days makes it really hard to get loans approved and yield to higher interest rates. So there is a process that Dave Ramsey talks about called the manual underwriting process, and I looked into this. Typically, lenders like to use automated underwriting processes because there's a lot of borrowers coming in, and in order to make a judicious decision, they let the computer screen all your information using some numbers and spits out some figures for them in order for them to determine if you qualify for a loan at what interest rates. Manual underwriting is quite tedious. The idea is you bring in an expert and they go through all the paperwork by hand to make sure that you qualify for a loan. Because of how tedious this process is, very few lenders actually are willing to do manual underwriting, and if they do manual underwriting, the chances of you being of a higher risk increases, and therefore you're gonna get a higher interest rate. We all know if it is your first time buying a home, it's wise to compare thoroughly a couple of different interest rates just so that you can have an idea of which lender can give you the best offer. 3 is the limited trade or business options for individuals and businesses with very low or no credit history. In order to have good business standing with utility and insurance companies, in order to bargain better for your business ventures, having good credit history really does help your bargaining process. In general, having a good credit history definitely increases the chance of you having a good interest rates negotiated for your business, which save you thousands of dollars in the long run. For example, take mortgage. If you're going to flip homes and rent them out as investment properties, having 5% as an interest rate is definitely better than having 10% as an interest rate because you can save more money. I do want to give acknowledgement that credit, especially the usage of a credit card or excess debt, can really be harmful. And this is where I pay tribute to Dave Ramsey's podcast and his books. If you struggle with any of these, I highly recommend his books or podcasts to you because they might help you get into the mindset of distancing yourself from these habits. Number 1 is that you took out more debt than your financial situation allows, i.e., you live in lifestyle inflation. If you're one of those people who just got a salary raise and you suddenly got a new car, a new house, a new cell phone, a new everything, and you find yourself increasingly taking out loans to buy bigger and nicer things for yourself, then this is probably for you. If an economic downfall does happen, you will find yourself, unfortunately, in a situation where you are making less than what your bills are calling for. There definitely had been people, as stated in Dave Ramsey's book, when economic hardships hit, they found themselves having to sell all their assets and are left completely broke because they had no idea how to manage their credit and their debt. 2 is if you borrowed money or lent out money to close families and friends, and suddenly the relationship became a money ship. I have firsthand experience in my family dealing with trauma and instances where money ships don't actually go very well, and have since split the family apart. That is an instance where you probably want to distance yourself away from debt. 3 is if you have a horrible shopping problem. All right, so if you're one of those people who are depending on credit card to credit card, maybe it is okay to cut up some credit cards and think about not using any credit cards for a while. I think the idea of shopping, excess shopping, can be the number 1 danger of overusing credit cards and therefore relying on debt, where debt can really drain you. If you're someone who's struggling with shopping, I think the Dave Ramsey podcast or books definitely speaks to you as a person. Fix your habit and then learn about money. In all honesty, alongside all the other seniors I have in my life, I think I would really enjoy Dave Ramsey as a person, even though our views don't align with credit. He is very extreme because of where he came from, and I'm not for extreme views, but I'd rather talk to an opinionated person than someone with no opinions at all. However, being a younger person myself, I'm okay with risk, and as someone who's constantly evaluating our finances, I am always going to take out credit and risk to the ability that we have in our financial realm to keep track of where we're at so that we're never in a situation where we're drowning in debt. I think that's the goal over here. If you are someone who you know is struggling with any of the habits I just mentioned, think about distancing yourself away from extreme debt. It really depends on your risk tolerance. Again, I hope that was helpful. I wish that some of these topics were taught more thoroughly in school, but upon graduation a couple of years back, I realized that there was so much that as a younger generation we had missed out on. And so whatever I'm learning about money, I hope to share with you guys on the channel as I walk through building my own company and figuring stuff out. Take care, you guys.